In this video, I'm going to be giving you a beginner guide to building characters in Genshin Impact. This ranges from artifacts to weapons to talents to leveling, and there's a lot of stuff to go over, so I've set up timestamps, and so you can go to those if there's a specific part you want to look at, but let's get started. The first thing we're going to be talking about is leveling up your characters. Leveling up your characters is super important because it increases the base stats of your character. So let's say I want to level up Razor from level 80 to level 90. It would cost these materials you have, so the Hero's Wit, the Adventurer's Experience, and the Wanderer's Advice, okay? So when you spend those, it will cost more as well. You level them up, and it will increase their base stats, which is going to make them stronger overall. Now when you go to ascend a character, it increases the maximum level that you can level them to. It will increase base HP, base defense, and base attack, just like leveling. But each character has their own stat that they ascend with, so this stat will be increased every time you ascend them. So in this case, if I want to ascend Sethos, it will increase his Elemental Mastery stat. The next thing we're going to be talking about is weapons. Weapons are an incredibly important part of building your character because putting the wrong weapon on them can lead to a significant decrease in the amount of damage you could be outputting. So there are three main parts of a weapon you need to consider. There's the base attack, and then every weapon has its own unique substat. In this case, the Black Sword has crit rate. And then every single weapon has its own unique effect that it gives. So in this case with the Black Sword, it increases the damage dealt by normal and charge attacks by 20%, and it'll regenerate 60% of your attack as HP whenever you score a critical hit with the normal and charged attack. When you go to ascend a weapon, it will increase the base attack of the weapon and just the base attack. When you go to actually level up a weapon, it will increase the base attack, but it will also increase the substat. When you go to refine a weapon, it'll use any duplicates of the weapon that you have, and it will increase the effect given. So in this case, on the Lion's Roar, this sword increases damage against opponents affected by Pyro or Electro by 20%. If I refine it, it'll increase that by 24%. If you want to know what weapons you should be putting on your characters, you can open up the menu and then go over to the training guide. Now what you do, just go over to more characters and you can go to whichever character you want. In this case, let's say I want to build Lanyon. You go over to the weapon tab and then it will show you what weapons you have that you can put on them that will be best for them. It'll show how many people are using it. Or if you don't have great weapons, it'll show what weapons that are easily accessible to get. So in this case, Flowing Purity, I can just craft at the blacksmith. So let's say I want to build a character like Hazo, and I don't have great weapons. In general, using medium usage rate weapons are okay. There are usually better options, and if you look online for a build guide for that specific character, you're going to find weapons that are better for them. Now we're going to talk about talents. Talents are a very important part of your character because leveling them up will increase any buffs they give or damage they deal. So in this case, let's look at Arlecchino. Her normal attack talent, if you level it up, it'll just increase the amount of damage that all the different hits do. This is the same case for all characters on the normal attack talent. Now, let's say I want to level up her skill, it's going to increase the damage of it. So any stats granted by that skill, if you level it up, then it's going to do more damage or increase the stats. So let's say I look at a support character like Farina. If we look at her elemental burst, then the damage increase that she gives will be increased whenever you level up that talent. So in general, leveling up talents is super important because it'll increase your overall damage output and any support buffs that you need. Now we're going to talk about constellations. Constellations are different effects and buffs that your characters will get whenever you pull an additional copy of them. So for example, if I had one more copy of Arlecchino, I could get her constellation level 1, which would give this effect. In general, constellations can increase your DPS output significantly, but they're not accessible to everybody because oftentimes, especially for 5-star characters, you have to spend money to get them. So constellations are not a super important part of building your character, although they can increase your damage if you have the ability to get them. But not everybody does, so I would not recommend making that your #1 priority. Now we're going to talk about artifacts. Artifacts are the #1 most important part of building your character. If you take anything away from this video, pay attention to the artifact section because this is the most important part of building a character. Artifacts give different stats to your character, which are super important. They can increase things like your crit stats, healing bonuses, energy recharge, your base stats up here, your elemental damage bonus. There's a ton of different things that artifacts do for you. There's 5 different types of artifacts: the flower, the feather, the sands, the goblet, and the circlet. So to have a full set of artifacts on a character, you need to have one of each of these. Flowers are guaranteed to have an HP main stat. There is no way of changing that. Same thing with the feather, they are guaranteed to have a flat attack main stat. There is no way of changing that. For sands, there are a lot of different options. There are things such as attack, elemental mastery, HP, defense. Goblets are, again, they can have lots of different stats. They can have attack, HP, defense, but they can also give elemental damage bonus. Goblets are the only piece that can actually do that. Circlets, again, HP, attack, defense, elemental mastery, stuff like that. But they can also give crit damage and crit rate. These 2 stats are incredibly important for DPS characters. Every artifact has 4 different substats. So in this case, if you look at my flower, it has crit damage, crit rate, energy recharge, and flat attack. Flat attack or any flat stats do not increase the base stat, they just increase the stat by a flat number. So in general, if you can get percentage, it's better over flat stats. So how you know how you want to build your artifacts is up here. You can click on the artifact recommendations button, and it will, at the top, tell you what set you want to use and the usage rate of that set. So in this case, for Arlecchino, I would want to use the Fragment of Harmonic Whimsy set, and it will give these different stats. In general, the artifacts, the buffs that they give, are just going to be based off of your character's kit and how they work. So since Arlecchino revolves around Bond of Life, this is a great artifact set for her because it'll increase her damage. Every artifact has a effect that is granted by having 2 of the same artifact set on the character. So for example, if I have this Fragment of Harmonic Whimsy flower on her, as well as a feather of the same set, then I'm getting the 2-piece set, which increases my attack by 18%. Now, if I have a third Fragment of Harmonic Whimsy piece, and a 4th one, then I'm getting the 4-piece set because they're all part of the same set, and they're all on the same character. So when the value of a Bond of Life increases or decreases, this character deals 18% increased damage for 6 seconds, maximum of 3 stacks. And then every character can have 1 piece that does not need to match the 4-piece set. Now the actual set of the artifact is just 1 piece of the puzzle. There's much more that goes into building an artifact. So you can see what main affix you want on the artifact. So for flowers and feathers, it's a guaranteed stat, you can't change that. But for sands, for example, for Arlecchino, you want an attack percentage sands as your main stat. So whenever you're going to do domains to get artifacts, these stats that you get, they're going to be different every time. It's randomized, whatever artifact you get. So you want to keep going until, for example, you get an attack percent sands and a pyro damage goblet, things like that. Now, once you have the main affixes that you want on your characters, an important thing to consider is the minor affixes. You know if you have good minor affixes if they are highlighted. These are the recommended minor affixes that you want to have on your character. For example, for Arlecchino, you want crit rate and crit damage. So just make sure to look up here to make sure you're having the recommended stats. I don't want to go into too much detail on this, but there is a chance that you can reshape artifacts if you have the materials for it. So they will re-roll all the stats that you rolled into when you leveled up the artifacts in case it rolled into stats you didn't like. In general, you want to have all of your artifacts maxed out with at least decent substat rolls. It's very, very, very difficult and highly unlikely you're going to get perfect substats. But if you get some that are at least quite good, your characters are going to be pretty good. For example, this Pyro Damage Goblet rolled once into 8 flat HP and flat defense, but still 2 rolls into crit damage, so it's still going to be a decent piece and very usable. If you found anything in this video confusing, leave a comment and I will do my best to answer any questions. And that sums up this video, so thank you for watching and I will see you all in the next one.